Hey everybody, what's up? It's Chase. Welcome to another episode of the show. This is where I sit down with amazing humans, unpack their brains with the goal of helping you live your dreams and career, hobby, and life. Today's guest is the one and only, the inimitable Mr. Chris Bosh, 11-time NBA All-Star, 2-time NBA championship, gold medal, Hall of Fame, insane athlete, and he has an amazing book that we get to talk about called Letters to a Young Athlete. Now, this is not just about sports, although he's an insane sports figure. This is about lessons for life, for business, and for changing your life to the life from where you are right now to the life of your dreams. There's so many of the same principles that Chris invoked. He has a handful of pillars we talk about in this episode, some of the pivotal moments in his life, and with some very, very tactical advice, things that what he does to visualize, for example, very specifically, that you can take away. So I'll get out of the way. Enjoy my conversation with Mr. Chris Bosh. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it brings me great pleasure to introduce our guest today. Mr. Chris Bosh is in the house. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here, man. Appreciate you.
Congratulations on the book, let alone obviously a storied career as a basketball legend. But one of the things that I like to start out these conversations with is for the 11 people of the million listeners that we got. I want to know if you can describe a little bit about your origin story. Take us back for anyone, one of the, again, 8 people in the universe who don't know you from your storied career as a basketball legend, but orient us to your youth. What was it like growing up, and how did you make your way to where you are today?
Yeah, so I am from Dallas, Texas. So I'm originally from this small town called Hutchins, Texas. It was a town of 2,000 people. I think it's more people there now, but it was more of an industrious, agricultural, I guess, sort of part of town. I would always say Hutchins, but I went to school in Dallas, so we just say Dallas. I'm from Dallas, but
fair enough.
Grew up in Dallas, but in particular Hutchins, Texas. My grandma lived next door. Very, I don't want to say strict, but very disciplined in our family, in our household. I was always either in practice or in church, pretty much, whether that was with my grandma, my aunt. I have a lot of aunts, and a lot of uncles too. And I'm just, raised within a musical, spiritual family. And, basketball was one of those things that I just gravitated towards. I loved my dad. He would always take us to the recreation centers when he was younger, taking his 2 sons to the games. He was playing in the church leagues, or he would take us to open gym. And, it was always fun just going to watch my dad play pickup. And naturally, as a boy, watching your dad do something, you want to do the same thing, right? You emulate. So I fell in love with the game, and then I saw these games on TV, and I know for sure in '91, everything started sticking. I saw Michael Jordan play in the championship against Magic Johnson. That alone was incredible in itself, because my dad thought it was incredible, and so did his friends, right? And then once I saw that, you get, for those who are lucky, and I've just been blessed to be one of those lucky ones to say, yeah, I want to do that. That is, I want to do that. Not necessarily saying that, oh man, I'm going to be in the NBA. That was the start, but I just want to play basketball. I'm already playing basketball. I didn't know you could do that. And, it was just an incredible feeling seeing that. And I kept seeing these games around the same time. My dad would drive us up for the summer and drop us off at my grandma's house in Dayton, Ohio. This is how brave he was. It's 2 boys, and before adolescence, and you're taking them in a single cab F-150 from Dallas to Dayton. And every time he'd drop us off, it'd be night, and these games would be on. And that's when it started sticking in 91, 92. So after I saw that, I couldn't get enough of it.
Committed early. So
Yeah.
one of the things that, you're aware that the audience who are listening right now, I mean, we like to have a huge range of guests on the show because here we talk about creativity, but also creating a living and a life that you love. And so my goal is to bring the world's top performers to this audience. And it's not a surprise that the top performers in any discipline share a bunch of the same characteristics. And one of the things that I heard in your story just there is this connection that you had with the game. And I was hoping you can go, I want to get into your book, obviously, that is just come out and it's huge. I'm seeing it everywhere. I've got a copy of it open here in front of me. It's an amazing journey. But when I want you to retrace, if you can, the passion that you had for the game and your awareness that this was a thing that you wanted to pursue. And specifically, you cover this in the book, but specifically, there are people who are supportive of you chasing this passion. And there are people who think you are crazy because it's a 1 in a million, And so try and reconcile for me your passion for the game that you said you really locked onto in 91 with, the supporters and frankly, and the haters.
So I'll work backwards. I wasn't too much aware of criticism until I got to Toronto, which it's more so of the business then, so it stops being magical after about 18, 19. That's when, when the real world starts smacking you, right, a little bit. And you find out about worlds you didn't realize, working backwards from there, just developing that love. Like I told you before, my dad, he would take me to the parks or the recreation center. And it went from me watching him play to him taking us to go play. There was a transformation. And I mean, anytime I got the chance or the opportunity to watch, play, think about it, I would think about basketball. I would play it. My parents got me a ball and I would dribble it through the house. He took the ball. He said I kept doing the same moves without the ball. If it was a basketball movie in the movies, I wanted to go, watch it. I wanted to consume every piece of it. And I just enjoyed it more so than anything. And one of those moments was when I was in school and we started playing organized basketball, and I had always played on the playground. So I was chomping at the bit to actually play indoors, to actually play on teams, because we usually have to make it up in our imaginations, right? And, once that happened, it's funny how people start finding you. Those people that started helping me just started appearing, like literally not out of thin air, but you know what I mean? Like
I do. And that's what I mean. When you're doing the thing you're supposed to be doing, like the world starts happening for you rather than to you. That's what I want. I want you to keep telling your story here.
And so, and with that, coaches, I had this one coach in particular. He came to the gym. Like, I can't remember what the period of time was, but that it was no Uber back then. He was pretty much my Uber driver. He would pick me up after school, take me to practice, take me home. The whole team, we'd pack in this van and we'd go to the games, and this was every Saturday. And I'm sure, he took the edge off because I'm pretty sure my parents weren't able to do that. Trying to provide for a family and keep food on the table. And then weekends, my dad and, my mom, they were always doing this. They want to do the stuff they want to do. And my dad's trying to go back to school. It was just so many different things going on. But that's when things start happening for me. I always found those coaches who just loved nothing better than to be in the gym. And that's how I was. I just went, and I know, once you find that person, it's like this connection. It's like, wow, this kid wants to be in the gym, like, all day, every day. I crushed him yesterday and he's back for more, and that, just continued to, evolve, different coaches over my lifetime, but that same consistency, the coach with the big van, or that big Suburban, taking all these long-legged kids to practice.
Well, I want to read you an excerpt from your book, and just to say it out loud here. The title of the book is "Letters to a Young Athlete." It's an incredible book that it transcends sports. I personally developed a lot of my habits through sports and through reading biographies about people who were inspiring to me. And your book hits on a lot of levels. I want to read this particular excerpt and ask you to respond to it. And it goes like this. It says, there's a lot coming at you these days, whether you're a once-in-a-lifetime talent just arriving to the pros or an ordinary kid in an after-school league, whether you're playing basketball or lacrosse, throwing a shot put, or suiting up as a tight end, or whether you're trying to excel in the classroom or start a career. You've got a lot of people coming at you: coaches, crushes, teammates, teachers, parents, peers, the crowd. There can also be recruiters, reporters, police, haters, on and on. And then there's the toughest voice of all, the voice inside your own head. Nothing can imitate you like that voice. Nothing can mislead you, shame you, puff you up, lead you astray, keep you down quite like that running monologue. But wherever they come from, all those voices have something in common. Everybody thinks they know. So my question, Chris, is you're just in this book, and that you say in the next line, so here I am, just another voice in your ear. But what makes you any different? And I'm hoping you can answer that question for us. What makes you different? Why would we pay attention to you and your life lessons?
Well, I think the main reason is, obviously just having tasted success, just like I was alluding to earlier, me getting that feeling of watching Michael Jordan play. I got to do the same thing, and I started remembering and recounting each step. And there are some things you forget, but those moments when those things that stick out in your head, and not so much the glory where you hit the game-winning shot, because that very rarely happens. It's like we were talking about before, those coaches that help you, taking me to go get a hot meal after a game, taking me to the Cheesecake Factory. That's how I experienced the Cheesecake Factory for the first time. You know what I mean? Like those were the moments that I really, really started thinking about. And I wanted to kind of just put the cards on the table in the opening of the book, because it's like, yeah, I get it. And I don't want people to think that I'm going to tell them what to do. You're going to have to do that on your own. And that's why I wanted to open out with that, because I understand what it feels like to not know, not really, or acknowledge that you're not thinking for yourself, right? Because everybody else knows. Everybody else is an expert the minute they see something in you. And just walking the walk and remembering those lessons, and those lessons actually helping me out, not only in the time of my athletic accomplishment, but afterwards too, because during this book, I had to kind of eat my own words with that humble pie. You're the one that makes it. That's the one of the things I had to learn. Like, oh, humble pie, when you eat it, not necessarily to say that it's a bad thing every time, but those days when you want to be frustrated and want to be mad, I start remembering the process of trying to be successful on the court. And, it just started helping me out, and it helped me actually get through writing this book, in recounting these stories and accomplishments, and, trying to actually publish a book and put it out, because we had obstacles in that as well.
Yeah, pandemic and others.
Yeah,
I know. And having written a couple myself, I know the lift. It's always way more than you think. You're like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And then you're halfway through, and you're like, sitting on your couch by yourself at 6 in the morning, looking around, like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, it's we were 2 years, and it took 3 years, 3-year process. We're 2 years in, and just my head is in my hands, like, I don't know, but you go through those, and I remembered that. So it's like, all right, I got to stay with it. I have to, that perseverance, we have to keep that up. I have to keep working with my team, keep communicating. And now is not the time to, just kind of just start falling apart. We got to stick together and make it happen.
Well, you've got a series of pillars, a framework that you live by, that you share about in the book, and I've heard you talk about in other places, that is inspiring, and I want to touch on that. But it seems to me that lessons that we can learn from one of the world's top performers like yourself. I do want to take it out of this general universe and put it specifically in sports.
Mm-hmm.
I've shared my background in sports. I feel like was critical, and there are people who are listening right now who, had no exposure to sports or don't find it interesting or valuable, but yeah, I have to double down on my own experience, and of course, what I read in the book and what I know about you,
Mm-hmm.
the parallels between life and sport, and it gives, whether that's discipline, perseverance, some of these things, teamwork, some of the things you mentioned, or
Mm-hmm.
others, like how important is that, or some analog of that to an upbringing or to a life in order to be a top performer?
I mean, that's one of the best parts I loved about this book is I'm trying to, really draw those parallels and allow people to make those connections for themselves. Because we wanted to have this universal message, so whatever your profession is, let's talk about pushing ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's talk about ignoring that empty sign that you think you're on E, just giving a little more, knowing your limits, communicating with those around you, working on your craft daily. Those are the things that still have to go on regardless, right? I think we all are in a place, and hopefully people have found something that they really want to give their time to. But, this is me drawing from athleticism as a man that lost the game at 30 to 31 years old. I had to walk the walk. I couldn't say, well, you just got to find that thing you love. I really had to find the thing I love, and it didn't make any sense. What am I doing writing? It doesn't make any sense. So, I know that it can be some cynicism towards that because it's like, yeah, another athlete telling you can do it. My thing would be just to know the story. There's a story in this, and it's a reason why I'm telling people to chase their dreams. Identify that thing that you love, because I love basketball. I liked other things. I had hobbies, but I'm trying to be the best at basketball. That's all I ever did. And then to go from that to pivoting to, trying to figure something else in this, in this new world that I'm in, I had to figure those things out, and I'm still figuring them out every day. But in that, I wanted to leave some sort of memento for people that, they could hopefully get a piece of motivation from, or take these lessons and say, wow, I really connect with that right there. Because, I was an avid reader during my time in this playing, and this is the book that I had never read. This is the book that I felt like, oh yeah, there's a couple of just gaps that I want to put my voice on, and hopefully it'll help somebody, because that is the intent of the writing.
Thank you for that. These pillars, I was fascinated by them, and of course, it made a ton of sense after I started deconstructing a little bit more about your life, and you can see this framework emerge. There's a saying, you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go as a team. And the second of, again, I'll read off these pillars that I've come to know about you: perseverance, teamwork, mental preparation, rising to the occasion, staying in the moment, doing the work, and visualizing success.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about the teamwork one.
Mm-hmm.
And again, partly because this is universal, it doesn't require sports. There are teams across all kinds of, it's a sports foundation, but there are teams in business. There are teams
Right.
for nonprofits. There are
Correct. Every day,
every day in every genre of work and culture.
Yeah.
And we're social animals, so we need to work together. But specifically, I want to talk about when you transitioned from Toronto to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first super teams, yourself, LeBron, Damon Wade. Like, what was it like to play on a high performing team, to be a star amongst other stars. I think a lot of people, a lot of A players in whatever field,
Mm-hmm.
they sometimes put themselves around B and C players to make themselves feel great.
Right.
And we all know that's not the formula for success, right? Like
Right.
A players ought to seek to be with other A players. So there's a little bit about, you're our mutual friend Tim Ferriss,
Yeah.
you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So choose wisely. Like, what was it like stepping into that environment? Was there intimidation? Was it just pure elation? Was it optimism about, being,
Yeah.
having incredible teammates, and just what was your headspace there, and advice you might give others who are, whether or not they admit it, want to either, be the standout in a team, or, they're intimidated about joining a high performing group of other folks.
Well, I think people understand it if better if I tell them why, right? That I made
Please.
that decision to do that. I had tremendous success in my first 7 years in Toronto as a basketball player, as the cornerstone of a franchise, the best player, the highest paid guy, that part that we all want to be, hitting, shooting the game-winning shots, missing them, making them, taking them all the glory and all the criticism when it comes, but trying to stay consistent. One of the things that I noticed was, when I what I thought was a tremendous feat, and at least in my mind, I accomplished it, nothing would happen. I would still be home during winning time, watching the other teams play, and just pretty much just getting back in shape for next season. I'm already playing basketball again, and I had everything, fans that loved me, and I loved them, and opportunity to play at my highest peak and prove why and be the best player on that court, or try to be. And that's even if LeBron or Dwayne or Carmelo or any of those guys were on the floor with me. Kobe, I'm trying to be better than Kobe. Maybe not, but tonight, and nothing, it's hard. It was tremendously hard. And we had a couple shots at it, but we just weren't good enough. And, we couldn't put the team together. And that happens. It's pro sports. And I would talk to, you have to seek out people that hopefully have been in your situation and just ask advice. And that's what I did. And it was a few people, Bill Walton in particular. He said, "Hey, man, you want to play on the big stage?" And he said it so quickly. And I asked, talked to many other people that have been in that position, but he said it so quick. It was just something about when he said that. I said, okay, bam, that's what I'm doing. And then in the free agency process, figuring out which team I'm going to sign with next, I encountered Pat Riley. And, he's for those that don't know, he's been great every decade since the 60s. You know what I mean? So he's telling me this is what it's about. You guys have to get together. It's about teamwork. It's about sacrifice. And, you have to have the best in the world to be able to accomplish what we want to accomplish. And it just resonated with me. So we all made the decision, after careful consideration, that we joined together. And then, in that, it was hype. It was manic mania, paparazzi, you name it. We went through the gambit. But, at the end of the day, we still had to go out there and perform on the court as a team. And in that, you go through the ups, you go through the downs. We were great. We stunk. And one of the things that I learned from that whole process is no matter how good the individual talent is, you still have to gel together as a collective. And in that, everybody has to accept their role. And for me, my challenge was, I was known as more of a scorer. I wanted to score. I wanted to be dynamic on the offensive end. Defense needed a little work, but in that, I said, oh, yeah, with LeBron and Dwayne, I'm going to average so many points because they're going to pass me the ball. And I'm going to get the ball where I get it now. Oh, my God, it's going to be amazing. It wasn't like that. It's like, no. Hey, Chris, we need you to play this position over here, and that's where I had to kind of understand what team is and what ego is, because it's like, I score all the points. It's like, no. You can score the third most points, but you need to be, best defender out here. It's like, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? So I had to fall into my role, and I had to learn, like, hey, if you want to be part of a championship, this is what it's going to take. And you'll be surprised how many players I've experienced that won't do it. And it could be something as simple as taking out the garbage. Somebody won't do it. If you want to be an NBA champion, take out the garbage every day. And somebody won't do it. You'd be surprised. And so, not that that was my role, but just using that as an analogy to, be like, okay, yeah, this is more strenuous, more physical work, less glory, because Brian and Dee, they're the superstars they are. And these are the roles of the team. That's a role, to be the leading scorer, to be the second leading scorer, to be coming off the bench. So there was these different roles that we had to fit. And then even in that, it was still hard, just trying to overcome the challenges as they came. But we were able to get through it. And it was just a major lesson in why it's so important to understand those values in team, because I've seen it be successful. I've actually sacrificed something and it worked, so that's one of the main messages I try to tell people.
I think it's an incredible message. It matches my experience and the experience of a lot of the other folks we've had on the team, on the show here. And again, this idea of going fast, go ahead and go alone. You want to go far. Surrounding yourself with incredible humans is, is pretty much required.
Yeah.
So, it is. And that takes me to another one of these pillars, and that is this mental preparation. And again, looking to tie strings from your experience as one of the top, basketball players to ever play the game. What role did the mental part of the game play? And just be as candid as I think you can here, because again, I believe this is extrapolatable to every area of life. But tell me how important it was, and what are some of the things that you did in order to prepare mentally?
I would read. That's where I found peace, where I would solve problems, where I would go to sleep. That was my preparation. Even mentally, I would read all the way up until coach started talking. I just found that thing, and that's what I love. Mental. It's hard to give it a percentage, but it's everything. You definitely have to have a great approach. My grandfather had a saying. He said, use the thing in between your ears, because if you don't, if you don't, no one else will. So, developing your mind, not only having other interests and hobbies, but sharpening it. And that's what I mean by visualization. Going over that process. For us, it was watching film and going over these situations over and over. And when you get tired, you do it again, and as well, see yourself being successful. I'm seeing myself making those free throws. I'm seeing myself dive on the floor for that loose ball. I'm seeing myself be successful in that moment of truth. And there's a bunch of moments. So you gotta, I like to keep a running dialogue, a healthy dialogue of seeing myself going through these motions when I'm not performing. And, just for the mental edge, I like to take in information that would help me, be successful. I got into this one book called The Way and the Power. A good friend of mine gave it to me, and it's a Japanese book on the samurai, the dissection of a samurai, the spirit, how you get there, the practice, the repetition, and then, becoming hopefully a master one day and incorporating these philosophies, and I would read these things, but I felt that it got me prepared to take on these challenges that were coming, because sometimes you feel like things are out of your control, right?
Yeah.
But you can control your reaction. And that's what it was always like that in sports, especially the harder it got, the deeper you got into the playoffs or into the championship rounds, the better the team is, right? And so you're going to deal with situations you don't want to deal with probably 100 times a night in each game. It's keeping keeping yourself in check, keeping that mind there, and understanding, like, regardless of what happens, this is what we do next. Let's stay in the moment. Let's, the next evolution is we're always constantly moving on to the next thing, being present, and then moving on, accepting it, moving on to the next phase. And you don't know if they work or not, but
yeah, the reading. We've talked about Ryan and Stoicism, previously, and this idea of acceptance and reality, and then sort of just stepping into the moment and present and being there. You're the only athlete that I've ever spoken to at length about this with respect to reading. I think that's fascinating, and that right up to game time. So are you reading these samurai books right up to game time? I mean, is that the material?
Yeah, it would depend. The material depends on the time of year. That's like winning time. That's championship, playoffs. That's like if my wife sees me reading that, she'll leave me alone on the couch. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know what I mean? It'd be like, he's probably, he's over in his zone. Yeah, okay, cool. I'll come back in like 30 minutes, or she'll ask me a question like, okay, yeah, what's on your mind? I see you pop the book out, and then we'll talk about that. But, usually in the season, I would read a lot of, I read everything, fiction, nonfiction, motivation. I would go based off of what I'm feeling at the moment. And I just enjoy it. I just enjoy it. I still do. But back then it was kind of like a challenge too. And it was time to get my reading done, to be honest with you. I found peace in it because I know it's like 65 minutes on the clock and it's counting down. Coach will be here in about 20 minutes. It's about to get hectic. I'm going to physically have to push myself and compete, you know what I mean? And push these guys and strive for greatness. And that's stressful. It's going to be for the next 2.5. I'm going to be tired and sore after. But right now, I've got these 20, 30, 40 minutes. I'm going to read my book because I can escape and just get lost in the words. And then when it happens, all right, let's do it. I had my young fellas, they would tell me, like, we look at you, and when you close the book, it's like, all right, you ready? Let's go, So that's when they know it'd be time to play.
So again, it's fascinating, the reading. Any other titles you care to share that were regulars, like you mentioned?
The Obstacle is the Way. Yeah, The Obstacle is the Way. Or, Ryan, of course. Grit by Angela Duckworth. That one was pretty good. And our coach, Eric Spolstra, he would gift us books during Christmas. So, and I was probably the only one to read. I would actually read them. And I loved it because I think Good to Great was one of them. Oh, man, what was the other one? It'll come to me as we keep talking. But, he would give us these books, and, we would talk back and forth about the books. And when things got challenging, sometimes I would have to, we'd pull each other's card and be like, hey, push versus pull. You know what I mean? Come on, man. You know what I mean? But we would always kind of share knowledge in that one. He funny story that I tell all the time. When we first met, he gave me the book Outliers. And that's like one of, definitely one of the, I read it as soon as it came out. And this was years
Malcolm
later.
Gladwell, for those who don't know, the
Malcolm Gladwell, right?
Outliers, great book.
And so, he gives me the book and he's like, hey, I heard you're an avid reader. Welcome to the team. Looking forward to this season. And he gives me the book. And I said, oh, I can't remember my delivery, but I told him, like, yeah, I read it. And his look at me was like, oh, damn. You know what I mean? It's okay. Who is this dude? You know what I mean? And that was always kind of a fun thing. We go back and forth with, and, I would, ask him questions during this process and just bounce ideas. He didn't know that the book was already done. I'm like, hey, man, yeah, I'm going to send you some stuff. And, I got a book coming and we have these discussions. But, yeah, man, that was like a connection that we had. I knew every Christmas he'd gift the team books. I'd go through it and we'd eventually talk about it and then, try to get some wins.
Well, I just love it. That's a wild standout from other top performing athletes. I think that there's all these synergies. Of course, it makes a ton of sense. Reading right up to game time is fascinating to me as a mechanism for
Yeah, man.
escape or just calm. I want to go into a little bit of detail. You talked about visualizing yourself diving for loose balls, making free throws, making the game winning. Can you give us like one layer deeper? What is the process there? Is this at home, laying on your back, pillow over your head, visualizing? Is this, while you're out on the floor, you're going through some mental exercises, seeing yourself, are you smelling the smells of the gym floor
Yeah.
and the sweat of the guy next to you on the free throw line? Like, paint a picture of how specifically you visualized. And it doesn't
Oh
have to
my
be, I'm sure
gosh.
it changed and
Yeah.
evolved, but just paint a picture for us.
So many stories in that. When, anytime you can, I would say I would daydream about it. Definitely walking through the situation. Sometimes you write it down, you type about it, think about it. Yes. What does it look like? How bright are the lights? Am I at a desk? I should maybe have lunch. Let's make sure I'm fully ready. I'm hydrated. Okay. One story in particular for me was when I wouldn't hold the trophy. I was very superstitious about holding the trophy. I was like, no, it's bad luck and stuff like that. And we lost our first crack at the championship in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So the next year, I said, yeah. Let me get it. Let me hold it. All right. How heavy is it? Okay. Let me see yeah, that's heavy. So I'm going to have to do it like this when we win. Okay, cool. Embrace that, how heavy it is. Smell of the popcorn. And like I say, even diving for that loose ball, I use that analogy. What happened? Why is it a loose ball? And then what scenario? Because there's only so many scenarios that I'm going to see that happen. So mentally, I have to just go for it because I already know I'm going to be the tired, the most fatigued I've ever been in my life. But I still have to put my face on it, going through that process, going through our exercise. We would the defensive and offensive game plans for a playoff series in basketball is pretty intensive, and it's changing every day because we're dealing with real world situations. So we're always critiquing, analyzing, taking notes, seeing what we can do better the next time in these real world situations. So yeah, I would constantly, if I had 5 or 10 minutes just to be like, okay, let me just think about this. All right, when this happens, when they zig, I'm going to zag. All right. And then these scenarios might happen. Okay. And I would just go through the beginning all the time and just get that rhythm down. And, eventually you see it help. The game for me would slow down, maybe someone who's speaking or in a board meeting. They need to go over their stuff. You go over your stuff, if you prepare, see the people in front of you, okay, what happens if I don't have my notes? Okay, what happens if the teleprompter goes out? Play these real world catastrophes in your mind. You wanted to
You're
have it in your mind
catastrophizing.
first.
Yeah,
Yeah. And not to go too deep into it, but just to say, hey, I got it. Let's work on that answer. Okay, hey, let me make sure I know my speech by heart. Let me make sure I'm engaging. Let me make sure I'm talking to my coworker to deliver this information and communicate effectively, even if it's stressful right now, because we have to make sure we all, one of our things with playing basketball is, hey, keep the main thing the main thing. This is what our focus is. If you're getting emotional or if you're getting just down on yourself, no. It's about the main thing. It's about winning this game right now. We'll address the rest later. And you just have to start compartmentalizing. And, you look back, it's like, wow, it kind of worked. It worked better than if I hadn't have done it, so it's just a great process to do.
Part of thank you for the detail around
Mm,
visualizing. I find that is a very common thread in the highest performers in the world is some sort of a mental preparation, visualization, meditation, mindfulness,
absolutely.
stoicism. So many of these. And we talked earlier about team. You've had a chance to play for some of the greatest coaches, have some of the greatest teammates, some of the friends that across the league. Uh, Advice that you have received from others that you feel like is worthy of passing on? There's a couple great examples in the book, but I want people to read the
Mm.
book, so I don't want to go verbatim. I want to let you share some. I took this nugget from Kobe and this nugget from
Yeah.
from Michael, or from
Mhm.
anything stand out to you?
One in particular, and only because it helped me tremendously, which I do write about it in the book. One of my coaches throughout my career, he pretty much coached me in me trying to establish myself as a consistent all-star. He coached my hero in Kevin Garnett, and played alongside him. So I had a great deal of respect for him, and we went through the whole coach best player process, and it was great. And one time in particular. Well, he would always challenge me. I was kind of joking about my defense. And, if I wasn't, he called me out in front of the team one time and he communicated that, it's unacceptable for me to be the best basketball player on the court with the ball in my hands. But just because I don't have my ball in the hands, my effort goes down. If I'm not scoring the ball at the clip that I usually do, if I'm not getting my 25 or 30 points a game, my shoulders start slinking. I'm not communicating like I should be. I'm not giving my effort that I should be. And he said, that's unacceptable. You still should play just as hard on defense as you do on offense. And, you can still affect the game in these ways, even if you're not scoring. And I had to go through that and realize that in live time, in particular, for those who don't know about sports, Game 7 situation, winner take all situation, and I'm having a terrible out performance on offense. You know what I mean? I get in foul trouble. I'm going through live the situation that you don't want to go through in that, winner take all is happening right now. And a voice came in my head, and it was Sam. He said, "Hey, man, play defense. It's unacceptable. You can still be the best player out there." And so, I just made it a point to focus all my energy on the defensive end, on winning the game, on being a good teammate, and we came out successful. And that was a thing where I could have just started freaking out because don't let me know I was cool. I was cool for a little bit. Then in the second half, I was like, oh, I had to accept saying like, I'm not going to score today because this is
the universe is not on my side right now.
It's not on my side, but you know what I can do? I can dive on the floor. I can just be a dominant presence down there, and I can try my best to guard Tim Duncan, who had been pretty much annihilating me up until for the last couple of days up until that point. So I had to kind of, let the training kick in, trust my teammates to bring it home. They were going to have to do the brunt of the scoring and just be available and willing in that moment to do what's necessary. But it probably wouldn't have happened if my coach years ago, like 7 years prior to that, him chewing me out because I wasn't given the same effort. I wasn't being the best defender on the team, which was unacceptable.
I'm going to press pause for a moment on all of the sports related stuff, because one of the things that I appreciate about your not just your career as an athlete, but as a human, dear friend of mine, Detlef Schrempf, former NBA All-Star,
man,
just played golf with that yesterday. Super good human, but he's also been on the show. And one of the things he talked to me about is it's about legacy, and it's about being a member of a community that transcends, just the way that you make a living in a life. And that manifests in lots of ways, through kindness, through helping others. And I want to know what role that's played for you. I'm aware of the work that you do in underserved communities, bringing technology to bear. I also know a little bit about some of the hobbies outside, your music label, Daddy Jack.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you can paint a picture for those who might just think of Chris Bosh, superstar, crazy, one of the best athletes to ever play the game of basketball, and paint a picture for us about being a complete person, because I think that actually feeds into what it is that we want to do in this world and with this one precious life. So tell me the role that plays for you, and what role?
treat others like you want to be treated, right? The golden rule. I think about that every day. I talk about that, every day. I teach it to my children. I try to do my best. Yeah, I didn't paint the picture all the way, so I pretty much come from a lower middle class household. My parents were both there, luckily. I've had a friend who said he only had two friends that had both parents in the household, and I was one of them. Very, I guess, modest upbringing, to say the least. But, I come from a place where it's an underserved community where there were no resources. And I've been so lucky to have basketball. But I think about those kids and I have experience with these kids because, once upon a time, I joke about this all the time. I was in the robotics club, and when I was in my junior year, and I would notice how some of the people in the club would be like, wow, dude, you solder cable? You know what I mean? And it's, yo. And, let's keep it real. He's got a grill. He's got goals in his mouth. There can be a stereotype associated with somebody looking at him and they will think certain things. But he knows machinery. He's soldering cable. But, this is the only resource. This is our little robotics club. I think about the kids who don't have those resources, and I want to bring that. And my wife tells me all the time to tell people, you guys didn't have AC in your gym. We're in Texas, it's no AC. We only had one good gym, and we had to split it. So every other day we'd be in the old gym, and there was no AC in that Texas heat. We're just trying to strive to be a good team. So I know what it feels like to just be hovering that poverty line. And in that, we still had a great time. We still were able to find something, and put our time into development of our minds and our bodies. And so I want to bring that to kids. I want to bring that awareness because a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people just see me and I'm well spoken and I can afford to get a haircut, every now and then. And, there can be some preconceived notions with that, but I want to bring awareness to it. There are kids in underserved communities that need help. They need access to technology and education. We need more girls in coding and engineering and STEM education. Those things are very important. And I want to promote that because somebody helped me. You were telling me before, right? I thought you were crazy. People literally did. And I'm sure even my dad probably was like, this kid thinks he's going to the NBA. But he never said, you need to get real, son. I just kept working on it. And just, I've seen what it could do for me. And not to say that each kid is going to be the professional, best in the world talent, but man, it started off with me just trying to get a scholarship, attempting to get a scholarship because my dad told me he didn't have any money for that, and I was 12 years old. So it's like, oh, well, let me put my time into this and more so on coding and stuff like that. Like I've had kids come up to me who are teenagers now and say, yeah, you're the reason I do coding. Mr. Bosh. I'm like, don't call me Mr. Bosh, dude. My name's Chris. It's cool. But I've seen and heard the stories and I want more. I want to hear more stories because it's not about me. It's about just giving that helping hand. I've had a coach tell me one day to say, look, I don't want anything from you. I want you to be successful and you to reach, as far as you can reach. And I feel that I owe that out there. So I think about that every day. And without that, on one of these car rides, going to go get a meal and work out and drive me home, he told me, like, I don't want anything from you. So I try to bring that same mentality. I just want to see people, accomplish goals and reach their dreams in this lifetime.
Two-time NBA champion, 11-time All-Star, Olympic gold medalist, Hall of Famer, now author. Congratulations. I want to part ways today with one question, and it's admittedly loaded. The difference between wanting to be proficient, and this is to be fair, this is a question for a very small percentage of our listeners, but I have to ask it nonetheless. There are people who are listening right now that want truly in their heart want to be the best in the world at something, and
Yeah.
to maximize their potential in any given thing. I'm wondering if you can speak to that person, to the sacrifices that you've made to become a 2-time champion, 11-time All-Star gold medalist. What does it take, in no uncertain terms, to be that? And I want you to be real.
You know what? Me and Kobe had a conversation. I have to give credit to him because this was something that he said to me, and it was so profound. It's all of the magic is in doing the work, loving going to do what you're about to do, because there are going to be highs, there's going to be some lows, but just getting in, building yourself into the repetition of doing those things daily, even when it's hard. Even when you don't feel like going to the gym, go to the gym that day to get the work in because it's required. If you're trying to be the best, identify that muse and work backwards from that. I'm big on working backwards. So, if they wrote 100 pages, build yourself up to working 100 pages. Even if it doesn't make any sense, just get into the routine, find out these routines. And then, of course, you can always put your own splash on it. But it's about, to me, it's about the daily work and just every day trying to go for excellence. That's why I have those pillars, to guide me when things start getting a little rough. Prepare my mind. Let me visualize. Let me communicate. Let me make sure I'm being a good teammate. And in those things, you begin to see in the daily work how you can, accomplish that thing. Keep the main thing, right? And it's about work. It's about putting in the work, right? It's about preparing your mind. And a lot of that confidence comes from the difference between ego and confidence is the work that you've put in. Get into the work, become what you're trying to do. Totally immerse yourself in it. How much do you know about the subject? And then just start digging. Who's your favorite writer? Okay, well, what else did they write? Read those books. Well, who influenced that person? Well, what other genres are out there? You can just keep going deeper and as deep as you want to. But if your why is intact, if you've asked yourself why I'm doing this, and deep down what you're trying to do, then the execution is in the daily practice every day, and then hopefully things work out.
Thank you so much for inspiring us. Just a quick restate here. The book Letters to a Young Athlete. Congratulations on the crazy success. All this history of literature and reading, and here you are writing your own books. I'm looking forward to the next one already. Congratulations. It's an incredible read. It transcends sports to life lessons. Highly recommended. Chris, thanks again for being on the show. It's a real treat. And what's next? Just another book? You're going to go put your feet up for a little bit? Where you going? Back to hot Texas?
I'll be pretty much preparing for Hall of Fame late this summer. So, and then it'll be time for the kids to go to school, and then I'll kind of restructure and go from there, man.
Congratulations on the Hall of Fame too, man. That's
Thanks
crazy.
A lot.
Of course, you're an obvious shoe-in, but what a career. You're an incredible human. Thanks for inspiring so many. Keep doing what you're doing. We respect and appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks for being on the show. For everybody out there in the universe, check out Chris's book. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for another one soon, hopefully even tomorrow. Until then, I bid you all adieu.